Sorry for being exceptionally late today. I want to start off. I want to start off with a note on the situation in Myanmar and Bangladesh, and especially on recent press stories regarding our team in Bangladesh. The United Nations strongly disagrees with allegations that the UN resident in Myanmar, resident coordinator in Myanmar, that were made in recent press statements. The Secretary General has full confidence in Renata Lokdesailan, the resident coordinator, and her team in Myanmar. The United Nations has consistently and strongly focused on protection of human rights and inclusive development on behalf of all the people of Myanmar, irrespective of ethnicity, religion, or citizenship status. The resident coordinator has been a tireless advocate for human rights, conflict prevention, and humanitarian and development assistance in Rakhine State. She has drawn attention to rights abuses and called for credible investigations, advocated against incitement to violence, and supported the efforts to promote intercommunal harmony. The UN in Myanmar, led by the resident coordinator, worked with a wide array of government and non-government partners to help enhance Myanmar's capacities to tackle root cause of conflict, to strengthen democratic institutions, and to expand access to justice and reduce poverty. Human rights stands at the center of everything the UN does, and this includes the rollout of the human rights upfront by her team. As the Secretary General told the Security Council yesterday, he calls on the Myanmar authorities to take 3 immediate steps to end the military operations, to allow unfettered access for humanitarian support, and to ensure the safe, voluntary, dignified, and sustainable return of refugees to their area of origin. The head of the World Food Programme, David Beasley, is beginning a visit to Bangladesh today to see firsthand how the country is coping with humanitarian crisis at its border, with more than 500,000 having fled from Myanmar to Bangladesh. While the Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mark Lowcock, and UNICEF's Executive Director, Tony Lake, will also begin visits to Bangladesh on October 2nd. For its part, UNHCR has begun distributing plastic sheeting and other items to refugees at the entrances to camps in Bangladesh. UNHCR's partners are also scouting along the border to see where supplies such as soda lamps and plastic mats can be distributed to refugees as soon as they enter Bangladesh. And remaining on a humanitarian note, this time on Dominica, our humanitarian colleagues will be issuing a flash appeal for the country today, with every one of Dominica's 71,000 people affected by Hurricane Maria, and with nearly everything on the island destroyed or damaged by the Category 5 hurricane. The needs are obviously monumental. Through the $31 million appeal, the United Nations and its partners plan to provide humanitarian assistance and early recovery interventions over the next 3 months. Our colleagues at the World Food Programme said they have delivered some 10 metric tons of high-energy biscuits to Dominica this week, including to communities in the remote interior by helicopter and to coastal communities by boat. Overall, the World Food Programme plans to provide a range of assistance to some 25,000 people for the next 3 months. WFP is also providing critical logistics, air service, and telecommunications support to Dominica and the humanitarian relief response. The UN has been airlifting critical emergency supplies, including mobile storage units, pallets, tarps, boats, and electrical generators from Panama. The 2 vessels from the Royal Dutch Navy and their crew have also been assisting the humanitarian community in transporting food and other items from Antigua into Dominica. And yesterday afternoon, we issued a statement on Cameroon in which the Secretary General said he was deeply concerned about the situation in Cameroon, including with regard to recent security incidents in Bamenda and Douala, and mounting tensions in the southwest and northwest regions related to planned events on October 1st. The Secretary General has encouraged the Cameroonian authorities to continue their efforts to address the grievances of the Anglophone community. He urges the authorities to promote measures of national reconciliation aimed at finding a durable solution to the crisis, including by addressing its root causes. The Secretary General supports upholding the unity and territorial integrity of Cameroon and urges all parties to refrain from acts that could lead to an escalation of tension and violence. The Secretary General believes that genuine inclusive dialogue between the government and the communities in the southwest and northwest regions is the best way to preserve the unity and stability of the country. The Secretary General stands ready to support these efforts, including through the United Nations Regional Office for Central Africa. And the Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, will leave New York for Tokyo tomorrow to participate in the ASAHI World Forum. She will also have meetings there with senior government officials and representatives of civil society and business. She'll be back in the office on Tuesday. She'll be back in New York on Tuesday. And just an update on the situation in Iraq, because we have been getting some questions about the role that the United Nations is playing following Monday's referendum. I can tell you we're always offering help to all sides if they need our assistance. The UN assistance mission in Iraq wants to act in the best interest of the people of Iraq, including the people of Kurdistan region of Iraq. That's why we will continue our work in all fields, particularly humanitarian affairs, human rights, development, and political concerns. The Special Representative of the Secretary General for Iraq, Jan Kubish, confirmed this to the Iraqi Foreign Minister in their meeting yesterday, as well in his continuing contacts with the leadership in Baghdad and Erbil, in which he has added that he is available to assist if requested by the sides. We respect the unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Iraq. In this respect, we take full note of the approach of the government of Iraq, and we also appreciate that both the governments of Iraq and the government of the Kurdistan region of Iraq have pledged to do their utmost to protect the people of Iraq, including those in the Kurdistan region, to uphold the interests of the people and not to allow any escalation of violations of their well-being. We also notice that both sides have called for calm and restraint. We join them in that call. And an update on the voluntary compact on preventing and addressing sexual exploitation and abuse, which, as you know, was discussed at a side event during the General Assembly week. We are grateful to the many member states that have already answered the call by the Secretary General to sign on to the compact. A number of additional member states have formally indicated their intention to sign it. This represents an unprecedented demonstration of solidarity and a firm commitment to addressing the issue comprehensively and effectively, ensuring the full implementation of the Secretary General's zero tolerance policy. As you know, the Secretary General introduced the compact at the meeting on the prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse last week. The signatories to the compact represent a broad cross-section of the membership. We will have a list of those signatories available to you shortly. Through the compact, the Secretary General and member states reaffirm their mutual belief that sexual exploitation and abuse runs counter to the shared values and erodes the trust of those the United Nations serves. The compact also sets out specific commitment adopted by the United Nations and the signatory member states to prevent sexual exploitation and abuse, to hold individuals accountable, and to respect the dignity of those who have been victimized by providing them with meaningful support. And our colleagues at the World Health Organization reiterated its recommendations for large-scale deworming to improve children's health and nutrition. Periodic deworming programs with single-tablet treatments can drastically reduce the suffering of those affected with parasitic intestinal worms and protect 1.5 billion people currently estimated to be at risk. This is a major public health problem, disrupts people's ability to absorb nutrients, impeding the growth of physical development of millions of children. And our colleagues in Nigeria say that UNICEF in Nigeria say today the crisis caused by Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast part of the country has left over 57% of the schools in Borno State closed as the new year begins. In the three most affected states, UNICEF and partners have enrolled nearly 750,000 children in school this year and established over 350 temporary learning spaces. And press conferences, Monday, 3 p.m., Ambassador François Delattre, the President of the Security Council for the month of October, will be here to brief you. And today is the first time the UN officially celebrates International Translation Day. The day pays tribute to those who work the work of language professionals, which play an important role in bringing nations together, facilitating dialogue, understanding, and cooperation. contributing to development and strengthening world peace and security. And just finally, before we get to questions, I want to extend our best wishes to a colleague of ours, Miguel Gonzalez, who has been working in the audiovisual library and being, I think, a great support to those of you who need audiovisual material. He's retiring after 37 years, has served 6 Secretaries General. We will miss him, and we thank him for all the help he's given us. Madame.
Steph, I heard your statement on the BBC story about the UN office in Myanmar, but do you think this merits some sort of internal review? I mean, there's serious allegations from a very reputable news organization. They came from people within her office and in the aid community. So is this the end of the matter as far as you're concerned, or are you going to look into it further?
Look, we fully stand behind the resident coordinator. No one is questioning the reputation of the news outlet. The fact is that we disagree with the points made in the story. Ms. Dessalines has advocated for human rights, for development, I think in a very strong way. She has supported, contrary to the allegations made, I think she has supported various special rapporteurs, and she has not stifled internal discussion. Yes, sir.
Sure. I mean, specifically, BBC put on camera Caroline Van de Belly, a former chief of staff to Ms. Dessalines, who said that if anyone, even in internal meetings, raised the plight of the Rohingya, they would not be invited to future meetings, that they would have their travel documents banned. So it seems like these are very specific allegations by a former staff member, and I'm wondering whether OIOS, it seems like retaliation. I've heard the Secretary General sitting right here said it's very important that whistleblowers be protected. This is a person that worked in the office and that says that people were retaliated against for raising human rights. It seems easy enough to find out, to get to the bottom of it. Is any effort being made, and what do you say to Myanmar saying, to the report also saying that Myanmar government has blocked her replacement? So in June you said that she was being rotated out. It's September and she's still there. Is that because the government likes her so much they won't accept any other resident coordinator? And if so,
I don't speak for the government of Myanmar. When there is a change in leadership of the UN team in Myanmar, we will announce it. As for the first part of your question, I think I've already answered it.
So how did you answer it? There's no
I think
investigation?
I've answered it. I think we stand by her. Majid.
Thank you, Stéphane. About Iraq, I heard your statement about the calling for calm and UNAMI's role, but right now the opposite of calm is happening in Iraq. Today, a flight ban, international flight, total flight ban over Kurdistan region went into effect. No international flights are allowed to go into Kurdistan or come out from Kurdistan. This is a major escalation. What's the Secretary General's reaction to this? And I have a follow-up.
We're obviously concerned at the mounting tensions. Our colleagues in Iraq, led by Jan Kubish, are in touch, as I've said, with the national government in Baghdad, with the regional government in Erbil, in Kurdistan. We're continuing to monitor the situation, especially on the humanitarian front. As we know, the Kurdistan region hosts a large number of internally displaced people. In other places in Iraq, they are also present in other places in Iraq. And we hope that these humanitarian operations will not be impacted by any of the developments.
And Stéphane, about the humanitarian point, did you get any guarantees from Baghdad? Because only in Erbil International Airports, there are tons of food and supplies go to more than 1 million refugees in the region. Has Baghdad allowed for those flights? Will allow them to go in? Or?
I think the mechanics of these things obviously have to be worked out. I think my understanding is that the shutdown from international flights took place just a few hours ago, the official shutdown. As I said, we would not want to see any of the decisions taken impact our humanitarian operations. Abdelhamid.
Thank you, Stéphane. And I'm sorry if I missed this, but I want to ask if there is official investigation of targeting civilians in Yemen. Did the UN decide to do investigation? There is something.
I would refer you to the decision taken by the Human Rights Council today. They adopted a resolution. I think just as I was coming in, you'd have to take a look. Which one of you is raising their hands? Whoever has the microphone can speak, I guess. Yeah.
Two questions, Stéphane. First, Gutierrez was invited in Myanmar. When he's going to plan, when he's planning to go there. And second, you had a statement on Cameroon, but what about Spain and Catalonia on Sunday? Do you have any comments?
For us, this is an internal matter. For Spain, on the sorry, your first question was on
when the SG going
yes,
to Myanmar.
We definitely heard loud and clear the invitation extended. It's under consideration. Edie.
I was also going to ask about the Catalan election. I mean, why is the UN commented on the referendum in Iraq and not saying anything about the referendum in Spain?
Well, I think I commented. I was asked. I gave you our response that for us it remains an internal matter for Spain.
Stéphane, why is that an internal matter for Spain, but for Iraq, Kurdistan region's referendum, it's not an internal matter?
Well, I think it's clear that I think in Iraq the UN has a mandated mission, and we are I think involved through the assistance mission.
One more question about Iraq?
I'll come back to you, Mr. Sato.
Yes, thank you, Stéphane. Yesterday, Secretary General mentioned at the Security Council that on next month, 9th of next month, they will convene a donors conference on Myanmar. Mm-hmm. Do you have if you have any update, could you elaborate on this conference?
The information that I had was that I think the planning is that it may be held in Geneva. But if that changes, or when that is confirmed, I will let you know. Iftikhar.
The Secretary General made a strong statement in the Security Council and certainly increased pressure on Myanmar. Is he planning to follow up by making a personal visit to Myanmar and Bangladesh?
As your colleague just asked, an invitation was extended to visit Myanmar. The Secretary General has taken that invitation under consideration. That's okay. Mr. Lee.
The Cameroon statement. A couple of things. One, I mean, a week ago when he met with President Biya, he said everything was great. He thanked him. Now he's deeply concerned. I wanted to know, is the deep concern about the government banning travel and taking other steps? There's helicopters currently going over Bamenda and other areas, and people have been told if they go out of their houses, they'll be treated as terrorists. Is that his concern, or is his concern a call for an independence referendum based on a UN General Assembly resolution 1608?
His concern is the increasing tensions we're seeing in the Anglophone areas. And he would like the government, and he's encouraged the government to address the grievances of the population in the Anglophone community. And he's encouraged the national authorities to promote measures that will promote national reconciliation, and obviously finding a durable solution, which means entering into a dialogue with the Anglophone communities and addressing their concerns.
So as to October 1st itself, does he believe, when he calls on both sides to avoid acts that could lead to an escalation of tension and violence, does he believe the government saying that people coming out of their homes in southwest Cameroon will be treated as terrorists? Is that a negative statement?
I don't have the granularity of what the government has said or has decided. What is clear is that it's a matter of principle. People have fundamental rights to protest peacefully, to express themselves, and those need to be respected wherever that is.
Did he discuss this with the president when he met with him last Friday? It wasn't in the readout at all.
The issue was discussed. Yes.
Two updates from Iraq I wanted to mention is first, since the flight ban went into effect, some non-governmental humanitarian organization already withdrew from Kurdistan region. They were helping the Yazidis and victims of ISIS war. The second one is we have credible report, my network, that Iran and Iraq, they are planning to send troops into the border crossing, international border crossing with Kurdistan region, which will clearly be a major escalation. It could lead to a conflict.
Listen, on your first part, as I said, we would not want to see any disruption to our own humanitarian work or to that of the NGOs. You have the information before I do. We will check again with our colleagues at OCHED what the situation is. But obviously, irregardless of political developments, the humanitarian needs of the people who've been displaced by the fighting remains, and those needs need to be addressed. On your second part, as I said, we're monitoring the situation. I would not want to comment on anything that may or may not happen. Carla.
Actually, I have two disparate questions. You may have answered this. I came in a little late. There was a report in the New York Times yesterday that, again, the issue of the killing of civilians in Yemen there's going to be a report, and the question is, how is Saudi Arabia handling it? There was a request, I think, by the Saudis that it go through a commission in Yemen, but then there were...
I think what you're referring to is the vote that took place this morning in New York, this afternoon in Geneva, at the Human Rights Council. So I would ask you to look at what was decided. That was a decision by the members of the Human Rights Council. Your second question, ma'am.
Has the UN ever commented upon the fact that there are violations of Article 6 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty by the United States, the United Kingdom, and France, which have violated Article 6 of the NPT, which requires them to negotiate in good faith, and the U.S. has violated Article 1 by placing nuclear weapons in 5 non-nuclear states?
That's an issue, I think, for the signatories of the parties. I'm not qualified to comment on that now. I will leave Mr. Varma to brief you on the PGA. One, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you this one because I guess I'll ask this one. I wanted to know whether you. I've noticed that there's a UN Security DSS camera over the media bullpen here, and I wanted to know whether there are any safeguards, given what the UN says about freedom of the press, given what the Secretary General said about the protection of whistleblowers. What protections are there in place for how this footage is in fact used by the UN? Is it merely for...
This is a question.
It's a serious...
This is a question you need to raise with our colleagues in Malu. Thank you. I will leave you with Brendan on behalf of the PGA.